In this lecture, we will discuss the starting of DC motors. DC motors cannot be directly started with the supply, and there is a requirement of starting. Now, basically, we have a motor which has to start with a load. That means it is having some speed and giving some torque. Now, this is the voltage applied. This is the generated voltage EA, and its resistance being RA of the winding. We have a general relation that the current IA, V, EA and RA are related by that EA is equal to V minus IA RA, that is EA in a motor, and EA is some constant into the flux into omega m, which is V minus IARA. Now, at start, omega m is 0. So, we get with this relation, we find that at start V minus IRA is 0 from this relation, or IA will be equal to V by RA. So, the current drawn at start is decided by the voltage applied and RA. Now, RA is very small. Resistance of the armature winding is very small. Therefore, for rated voltage, IA is very high. So, if you apply rated voltage, the current will be very high. Now, if at starting, if a very high current is flowing, and if the starting period continues for sufficiently large time, which generally happens with loads with high inertia, that means we will have sustained high currents in the armature windings, and with sustained high currents, it will add up to increased losses and heating, and which may ultimately result in the burning of the windings due to failure of insulation. Therefore, high IA is undesirable. Okay. So, this is therefore undesirable. Okay. And however, if very low IA is also not desirable. Why is very low current at start is also not desirable? Because as we have said, supposing we operate at constant flux, the torque at start is equal to some same constant into the current. Now, we require certain starting torque, minimum starting torque. So, therefore, there is a minimum current is required. So, for a required T start, we need a minimum of IA. So we come to this conclusion that there must be some minimum of armature current at start, but it should not be very high as to damage the windings. So there is certain range of IA at start. Okay. So we can say there is a range of desirable IA at start. After all, we are concerned about the starting period, wherein the motor starts from 0 speed to the normal operating speed. That is called the starting period. Okay. So we can reiterate that the starting period or starting time is the time from omega m equal to 0 to omega m equal to normal operating speed. So this is the period when it is starting. So you switch on the supply here, okay. So there is a DC supply VDC, and you switch on the supply, and as you switch on, the motor picks up speed and it starts, and it will finally come to its nominal operating speed, normal operating speed. Now throughout you don't want the current to be very high, current must be within certain limits. Now we have said it should not be very small nor it should be very high, it is between a range, let us say I minimum and I maximum, or I1 and I2. Okay. So throughout starting, IA must be between say I1, that is minimum value, and let us say I2, that is the maximum value. So it should be in that band of I1 and I2. Now how do you limit this? That is important. So at start we say if it should not go beyond I2, if IA has not to go beyond I2, then there are two ways of doing things. Either you reduce V or increase RA, right? So from this it is very clear, for given IA, either you can do by reduce V or increase R. Okay. So these are the methods for starting. Either you start with a low voltage across the terminals of the motor, or you add resistance to the armature circuit. Okay. So normal starters which are used usually follow this method of increase of armature resistance. Okay. And they are increased in steps, and they are cut off, and the total resistance is eliminated under normal operating conditions when it has reached the nominal speed, because you do not want to keep the resistance in line in running condition, because that will just add to the losses in the system. Okay. So if we first, let us see the method of starting by adding resistance. So let us say resistance starting. Now in resistance starting, we typically have let us say this is the motor armature, and of course it has its own armature resistance RA, internal resistance. Then let us say we add certain resistance elements. So there are some studs here, and you add these resistances. Let us say you call it as R1, R2, R3, etc. up to say Rn. So there are studs 1, 2, 3, 4 going up to say n plus 1. Because if there are 3 resistances, there are 4 studs. So n resistances, there are n plus 1 studs. So you have to continuously cut off these either manually or automatically. Okay. So in this one, as you say, add resistances and cut off gradually. This can be, as I said, this can be done either by manual methods or automatic methods. So the both methods are prevalent. We will discuss it later. Manual or automatic. And in the whole process, the field will be fully excited. Supposing this is the supply, the field will carry the nominal current. So that means here flux is constant because IF is constant. Throughout you keep it constant, that is the rated value. No resistances here. So you keep IF is full value. Because if you reduce the field current, for the required starting torque, your armature current requirement will increase. And if this is the EA and this is the V, that is applied voltage, and let us say the net resistance of the circuit externally, let us say this is R1, and the next one let us say R2, and R3 and so on. Finally, lastly you will have RA. So resistance of the circuit is varying from R1, then come to R2, then come to R3, finally come to RA. Right. Now we have seen there are n, in this case, n studs like this, and we would like to know what will be the value of these resistances R1, R2 and so on. Okay. So we will we also would like to see that the current will be varying between I1 and I2 throughout the starting period. Okay. Let us say with time at starting, you want at starting it should not go beyond the maximum value of say I2. at starting. So at omega m equal to 0, that is EA equal to 0, the maximum current I2, that is what is flowing, will be equal to V divided by R1. That is the maximum current, that is the I2. Then when once it starts carrying a current I2 in the winding, and it will start rotating and the speed goes up. So as the speed goes up, then EA increases, then IA would come down, the current would come down. Let us say current is allowed to come down. Now we also said it should not go below the minimum value I1. Let us say this is I1, that is minimum value. I2 is the maximum value, you don't want to go beyond that value, say. So at some time, let us say at T1, see at omega, so this is at say T equal to 0. At T1 it comes to a speed omega m1. So at T1 you have a speed omega m1, and which will say result in EA1, and this causes I1, which is nothing but V minus EA1 divided by R1, because throughout you have a resistance R1. Now what will happen? You cut off, then you cut off R1, small r1. You cut off the first resistance element, small r1. Then at the same instant T1, instantly we may say, what will happen? That when you cut it off, the current will again go up. Let us say it goes up to, so at the same instant, so at T1 current goes up to I2, which is given by, now in this case it will be V minus EA1 divided by R2, small capital R2, because now we assume throughout that speed has not changed yet. Okay, so this is omega is equal to omega m is omega m1 only. Speed is still at omega m1. Okay, so this is omega m1 where speed is dropping, and it continues to be omega m1. And then what will happen? You are going to, when it reaches I2, this, and you will allow it to fall, the speed will again go down. This will be at R2. From here it goes up and then comes to R2. Let us say at time T2. So at T2, the speed has come to omega m2. And when it goes to omega m2, then you have EA2. Then again you will have I1 here, that is the minimum value given by V minus EA2 by R2. Now this continues. This process continues, it will go up, then it comes to R3, then it goes up, then comes to R4, and then the whole thing ultimately will have a, ultimately you will have the current due to RA. So it will, let us say at T maximum, the speed has gone up. So the speed, if you plot speed versus time, you may observe that the speed has gone, say let us say omega m1, omega m2, let us say omega m3, omega m4 and so on, and it has reached the full speed here. This is the, let us say omega m full. So you have gone the speed, this is omega m versus time. So it has reached the full speed, then there is no longer starter resistance is required. Now if you continue this analogy, this type of logic, we will get an interesting relation from this. So if you divide like I2 by I1, that the ratio will be equal to R1 by R2. So if you say I2 by I1 will be equal to R1 by R2. Okay. So let us call that as K, which is I2 by I1, which will be equal to R1 by R2, which will be equal to, also equal to R2 by R3, and ultimately it will be finally equal to Rn plus 1 divided by Ra. That is the last step. Okay, this relation that you will have, that means the ratio from this I2 by I1 will be equal to R1 by R2, then R2 by R3 and so on. So when we have this, finally Rn, sorry, it is Rn, not Rn plus 1, that is wherever you are touching it here, this is Rn. So Rn by Ra, last step will be Rn, when you switch off this small Rn, then it will be simplifying to Ra. Now these are n terms like this. This is 1 factor, this is 2, this is 3, this is n. Now if you multiply all these terms, sorry, no, this is 1, this is 1, this is 2 and this is n. Now if you multiply all these factors, you will notice this R2 here get cancelled, R3 will get cancelled, then Rn get cancelled. Okay. So each of these factors if you multiply, we will see that it is k to the power of n is equal to I2 by I1 to the power of n equal to, here R1 by R2 multiplied by R2 by R3 R like that. In the chain reaction you will find this is equal to R1 by Ra. So so long as the ratio of maximum to minimum current is fixed by k to the power of n you find is R1 by Ra. So you know what is the value of R1. Okay. Or if you know the value of k, supposing knowing k, I1, I2 and Ra, we can find out the number of steps required. So we can say k to from this n log k is equal to log of R1 by R2. Our number of steps required will be log of R1 by R2 divided by log k. So we get an important relation that we can determine in this process. We can determine the number of steps required, number of studs. So you will have n plus 1 studs, the n resistances like this. So when once you have n resistances, you can also find out R1. The first one will be, we know that R1 is nothing but V by the current, that is the maximum current first time will be V by I2, okay, that is the maximum current. And once you find R1, then R2 would be R1 by K and R3 will be R2 by K, so that goes on. So finally you will have RA is nothing but Rn by K. So when once you have this, we can easily find out, if you knowing R1 and R2 here, R1 and R2, this resistance element R1 can be determined, the small r1. So small r1 is nothing but R2 minus R1 minus R2, and similarly here small r2 is equal to capital R2 minus R3, and it will continue, and you can also have Rn, nth element will be Rn minus Rn plus 1, in this case Ra, or internal resistance. So you will find from this logic, so long as you know the ratio of maximum to minimum current permissible, that is K, you can find the number of studs and also find out what is the value of the resistance elements R1, R2, R3 and so on up to Rn. So all these resistance elements can be determined from this. So this is an important factor from which one can decide about the number of steps and the number of resistance elements and as well as the value of the resistance elements. Okay. So this is the basic principle of an n element DC motor starter. Okay, how exactly it looks, we can see it in this diagram. Before that, we have whatever we have done, it is given in this transparency. That means to sum up, at start omega m is 0, Ea is 0 and Ia is Vt by Ra, which is very high. So T torque required is K phi into Ia. So we need good starting torque and low current, and the methods of starting we are shown here. That is, you add resistance at start, reduce as omega m increases, apply low voltage at start and increase to rated value at nominal speed. So these are the methods of starting of motors. Okay. Now here is a typical diagram of a starter. This is starter for a shunt motor. Now these are the elements R1, R2, R3, R and so on connected to the DC shunt motor, and where the field is connected fully to the supply. Okay. Now it has some internal protection schemes. Originally this handle will be in the off position, and if you want to start the motor, you have to slowly move it in this way. So initially all the resistance will come to picture, then you slowly you cut off the resistances, finally you come to this position. So final running position will be when the handle is in this position, and as it comes to this position, there is an electromagnet here which will attract this iron piece and holds it in this position. So when this is held in this position, so the motor continuously will continue to run. Now when it is continued to run, it also should protect the system. Whenever there is a very high currents or overload, when the very large currents are flowing, very high current, then there is a magnet here, electromagnet, and that will short circuit these 2 points. This is called a overload release. What is shown here is a overload release, and with high currents above a threshold value, this will attract this and closes this switch. So between these two, this is short circuited. When this is short circuited, then there is no voltage across this, then it will automatically release the handle back to this position, because this gets de-energized with no current in this coil. So that is one way where this starter protects the machine. Then the other way is there is another protection called a no volt release. That means if there is suddenly you find that the voltage supply goes off. When the supply goes off, you don't want this to be again in this position, because in the next time when you want to start the motor, you will be starting with no resistance. So as soon as switch is off, it should come back. So when the no volt release means when there is no voltage across this, so this gets automatically de-energized and it comes back. So this is called a no volt release, and it will also protect in case there is no field winding. Supposing there is a field winding is not carrying any current, then this will also take care of this de-energization. So it will de-energize when the field gets disconnected. So you have a protection from this starter when there is no voltage, or when there is overload, or when the field is not excited. So this starter protects the DC motor against all these heavy odds. Okay. Now this can also be done in automatic way. Okay. We have this is a diagram of a automatic starter. This was a manual starter. In the automatic starter, let us understand all the components here. This is actually the motor with the field winding fully connected, if necessary, with a field rheostat, and there is this is the winding armature representation or additional windings. These are R1, R2. In this case, only 2 resistances are there, R1 and R2, and these are the contactors here. So these contactors will close when the corresponding coil gets energized. These are relay contactors. In a relay, there is a relay coil and a contactor. When the relay coil gets energized, there will be a contactor. Now let us systematically try to understand how this whole automatic starter works. Now here is a overload thermal relay. So whenever there is a very high when the motor gets overheated, so that will energize this and it will disconnect this. So that way motor gets protected against overheating. Then there is also this mains magnetic circuit breaker. So that is again whenever for any discrepancy this gets opened. To start the motor, what we do is, this is the push button is start. This is start push button, and as soon as you close this, then this contactor closes and this contactor closes. This M and M contactors close. So when once you have the start push button. when this contactor closes and as well as this coil M, this is the relay coil M also gets energized. So this gets energized, this closes, because firstly when you close this, this gets energized, this M contactor closes, this M contactor closes, and this full resistor comes to picture and will start drawing a current. Then when you start drawing a current and if there is certain voltage across it, when the voltage builds up to certain value, say VR1, when then this VR1 coil gets energized. So this is automatically, as the speed goes up, when the voltage goes up to certain value or back EMF goes to certain value, this gets energized. When this VR1 gets energized, then the corresponding relay coils will get energized. So when VR1 gets energized, this closes, VR1, this contactor closes. When this contactor closes, this coil AC1 gets energized. When this coil AC1 gets energized, the corresponding contactor AC1 closes. When this closes, that means R1 gets disconnected from the mains, it's short circuited. So the only R2 will now be there in the picture. Now as when R2 is there in the picture, after some time as the voltage goes higher to a value say VR2 corresponding to this VR2, then VR2 gets energized. When VR2 coil gets energized, this contactor gets closed. When this contactor is closed, then the coil AC2 gets energized. When this AC2 gets energized, the corresponding contactor AC2 closes. So the second resistor also gets disconnected or short circuited. So you find fully automatically as the voltage goes to certain value, there is a both the resistors will be out of the circuit. Now similarly, if you want to stop the machine, all you have to do is to push this push button, stop push button, and then M gets de-energized, then this gets open and this gets open, and the motor is disconnected from the supply. Okay. But there is an additional feature of a braking. If you want to quickly stop the machine, you can also put the braking resistor. When that happens, there is a dynamic braking resistors. That means this M, when you want to stop it, this M gets energized and this resistor comes to the picture, this gets open and it quickly comes to a stop. Okay, these are the features of an automatic starter. Okay. Okay, we have now seen the resistor sources starter. We can have a brief view of what is the manual voltage starters. Voltage starter, all you need to do is you want to reduce the voltage across the armature while the field becoming same. So one way is you can have a rectifier circuit and on the AC side you can have an auto transformer. This is AC supply, 3-phase. It can be single phase also. So what you do is you vary the voltage through the auto transformer. So this AC voltage is varied and therefore the VDC is varied. So this is a simple way, this is a diode rectifier. So this is one way of starting a DC motor. All you have to have is a fixed supply, variable supply, then when it varies from 0 to full value, the voltage goes from 0 to full value and the speed picks up from 0 to full value. Okay. So that is how the speed can be. So there is no resistance here. You can go from 0 value to full value to start the motor and ensure that the current drawn is within limits in the process. Another variation of this is instead of an auto transformer and a rectifier bridge, diode bridge, you can have a controlled rectifier, thyristors. This is again present day. Presently, this is one of the method of changing the voltage here. So with a fixed AC here, you get a variable DC because of the firing angle control. So here, by changing firing angle, alpha, by changing the firing angle alpha, then VDC can be changed. This is another feature of the starting methods. So you can presently most of the DC drives have this starting method. All you have to do is to slowly change alpha, the firing angle of the thyristor or converter bridge, and increase the VDC. So VDC will have may have a variation with reference to alpha. So you can vary from 0 to whatever is the full value, maximum value, and when there is ultimately it will be alpha is 0 degrees, or there is no maximum possible conduction of this. So this is the second way of changing the VDC at the term. Okay. So here thus we discussed the different methods of starting of DC motors. Both we have seen, number one, that starting of DC motor is very important. It cannot be started on full voltage because it will draw high currents. However, we must also maintain certain minimum current to maintain the necessary starting torque at the given flux condition. So there is a maximum current and minimum current range. This can be achieved by a manual starter or automatic starter whenever you use the resistances, or the other method is have a auto transformer and a diode rectifier to change the voltage across the armature, or you can have a controlled rectifier, thyristorized controlled rectifier. By changing the firing angle alpha, you can change the average DC voltage across the motor and then get the speed up to the full value. So this completes our discussion on the starter. Now we will look at one typical starter, how it looks like. Okay, now I will show you a typical inside picture of a actual starter used for DC shunt motors. Okay, this is a starter which is from off position and on position, and this you have to start slowly. Now let us look at what is inside this. As we discussed earlier, the picture which is shown here. Now whatever is shown in that picture, we will show it inside here. Now this is the handle which can be moved to start the machine up to here, and since there is no supply, if you if you leave it, it goes back to that position because it's de-energized. So these are the different studs, and internally there are different resistance elements. So if you move it like this, slowly the resistances are disconnected, and this is the iron piece, and which gets attracted to this magnetic core. Now this is what we discussed as a no volt coil. When there is no voltage, while it is fully working, it will be in this position as a motor, and when it is disconnected or when the supply is removed, it goes back to this original position, okay, because whenever there is no voltage here. This is the one which we told as overload release. Overload release is because whenever there is a high current, of course you will notice that these wires are thicker, it is carrying the normal current of the motor, armature current. Whenever this goes, then this comes to the, this gets attracted like this. When this gets attracted, then automatically there is a short circuit across this, and this gets de-energized. So in summary, we say these are the wires which goes to the motor. There are connections for the field winding as well as armature windings. Here there are these wires, there are 4 wires which will go, and after making that connection, the starter is ready for use with any DC motor. And to sum up, we have this handle is one part, and with this bars, with all these studs, no volt release and overload release. So this completes our discussions on DC shunt motors.